In accordance with an act to implement provisions necessary to the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of Maine in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency as enacted to read, Section G-11 MSRA, Section 403A, public proceedings through remote access during the declaration of a state of emergency for COVID-19 and for 30 days following the termination of that state of emergency, the regular board meeting will be held through Google Meet. The meeting will be live streamed and available for viewing at www.msad11.org. Members of the public wishing to make comment are invited to do so during the public comment sections of the meeting, and you may call 207-582-5346 or send an email to schoolboard@msad11.org. In addition to the regular public comment section at the beginning of the board agenda, an additional public comment section has been added at the end of the agenda to provide the school board with the ability to answer questions sent to them during the meeting. Again, if you have a question and would like to call in, the telephone number is 207-582-5346, or to send an email, it is schoolboard, capitalized school, capitalized board, at msad11.org. Pursuant to subsection 403A of MRSA, Maine Revised Statutes Annotated, we will now confirm that each member of the SAD11 school board can hear and be heard. We will do this by calling the roll. Members present are asked to say yay. We will ask all board members to listen and report any audio difficulties when the roll is complete. Pat, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Sure. Becky Fless.
Yay.
Veronica Babcock.
Yay.
Nancy Fortier-Brown.
Yay.
Linda Caputo.
Yay.
Matthew Lillibridge.
Yay.
Jim Lothridge.
Yay.
Matthew Marshall.
Yay.
Patrick Saucier.
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy.
Yay.
John Umland.
Yay.
Tony Veet.
Yay.
And Quentin Martin. Is Quentin here as our student? No, I don't see him here today. Okay, all set, Becky.
Thank you very much. No administrative staff tonight. So we will let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public comments for items on the agenda. I will count on people to call in or email since we have no public in attendance. Review and approval of agenda minutes. Prioritization of items and alteration to the established agenda format sequence as needed.
Yes, I just have two small adjustments under item 4, correspondence. I've received a letter from Kirsten Weed that I will share with the board. And then I would like to table the executive session for negotiations with the Gardner Transportation Association. And we will reschedule that for the next board meeting.
Okay. I'm going to have a motion to approve the agenda as altered.
So moved.
I second.
Second by Linda. And Pat, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Sure. Becky Fless.
Yay.
Veronica Babcock.
Yay.
Nancy Fortier-Brown.
Yay.
Linda Caputo.
Yay.
Matthew Lillibridge.
Yay.
Jim Lothridge.
Yay.
Matthew Marshall.
Yay.
Patrick Saucier.
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy.
Yay.
John Umland.
Yay.
And Tony Veet.
Yay. Yay.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Tony. Approval of the minutes of previous meetings, the regular meeting of June 4th and the special board meeting of June 9th. Motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Alyssa, second by Veronica.
I would like to comment on it, if I
Sure.
could,
Yep.
just for a quick second. So in looking at it, looking at the minutes from the June 4 meeting, the vote tallies on the left-hand side of the page show, it says voted, and then there's a number there that says 10,165 and 0, and motion carried. And that number 10,165 comes up a couple times. And I just didn't understand what it was doing here. So
Those are
Sure.
Go ahead, Pat.
So probably, what was it, about 4 or 5 years ago now, there was a modification in the number of representatives from West Gardner. It increased from 2 to 3, and it decreased in Gardner by 1. And as a result of that process, the board was required to weight your votes. So every time that you make a motion and you vote a certain way, your vote is worth a certain amount depending on the town that you reside in. And so in the minutes, we have to tally those votes. And so that's what the number represents.
thank you. I had not noticed that before.
I
But
think
that's
Jim,
Mhm.
I think
Go ahead.
Jim had a question.
Oh, okay, Jim, yes.
No, okay, sorry. I saw your hand. I thought your hand was raised.
Okay, but that's a really good question, Tony, so that constituents understand that their votes matter, or their community votes matter when they're all put together. So thank you for asking. So Pat, would you please call the roll?
Sure, so the approval of the minutes. Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock,
Yay.
Nancy Fortier Brown,
Yay.
Linda Caputo, Matthew Lillibridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy,
Yay.
John Umland,
Yay.
Tony Veet.
Yay.
That's it, Becky.
Great, thank you. Recognitions and celebrations.
Yes, as presented, I wanted to make sure that the board was aware that the school district received a donation from EJ Prescott. It was around $2,100 that they provided this donation to ensure that we have some supplies that we need for the start of school for all of our students. It kind of replaces some of the supplies that we had to use in the spring. And it also provides individual boxes for us to store math manipulatives for students as we begin the new school year. Since they're not going to be able to share the manipulatives, they helped us purchase 900 of these little plastic boxes. So we're very appreciative of that. We also, when we shut down in March and April, we had some extra latex gloves, and at the time there was great need by our medical community. So we donated some to the Maine General Medical Center, and they've sent a letter of appreciation for that. So.
Nice, thank you. Any questions or comments from board members other than what Tony wrote in the chat? And I agree, it's really a generous gift from EJP. Seeing none, we'll continue. Correspondence, none. Committee.
No, Becky, I made an adjustment for correspondence.
Kirsten, sorry. Kirsten Weed.
Right. So she wrote a card to the board that says, "Dear MSAD 11 School Board, thank you so much for your kind and thoughtful gift. Every year the board gives a $100 gift certificate to Amazon for the graduating student representative. I cannot begin to express my gratitude to all of you for allowing me a space to amplify the voices of my peers and me. I am forever grateful for all I have learned. I hope to continue with some form of public service in the future. I cannot wait to hear how the district will continue to grow in the weeks, years, and decades following my graduation. With love, Kirsten Weed.
She's so great. I just love her.
Very sweet.
Very well written. Yes.
I wish her all the very, very best, and we'll miss her. She was really a wonderful student board representative. We're very fortunate. Committee reports. Capital Area Tech Center, no meeting. Curriculum.
Curriculum did meet this week. Is there any board member who was in attendance? I think Linda, are you the chair of that committee? If so, could you report out?
I didn't know I was the chair. If I am.
Oh, I don't know if you are. I thought
That's
you were,
okay.
but
Well, what Angela talked about was the Title 1, 2, 4, and 5 money, and how that can legally be used and how it's going to be used. And that was the extent of the meeting. Would you like me to say how it's going to be used this year?
sure.
Let's see if I took good notes. I didn't know I was going to report.
And it was just yesterday, so.
Yeah, well, Title I for homeless can be used for the homeless population, math and language support. And we're going to use it for the homeless population and math. Title II can be used for teacher quality, the improvement of their teaching skills. And we're going to use some of that on the math training. Title, I'm not sure about the numbers, but there's some that we get because of rural education. Is that 4?
Yes.
And that's flexible money, and it's going to be moved into Title V, where we're going to help fund the math interventionist. And
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's all the notes I took because I didn't realize I was going to be reporting them. I'll do it next time.
That's good, Linda. Thank you. That's really all we need. Unless there was someone else who wants to add to that.
Jim, you were there. I was there, but you really pretty much covered it. It was a brief meeting. But Jim, if you have something you'd like to add, please.
No, that covered absolutely everything we talked about, and it was very informative. I got a lot out of it, and Angela did a great job, I thought. So, thank you. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Becky, I had selfish reasons for wondering about the Title I program at Helen Thompson because my son does the math, and so it was interesting where it got broken down how it's still federally mandated, but they're going to get taken care of. And I know Maddie loves his Title I teacher too, so that was good to know.
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you, Matt. Are there any? I don't think there was anyone else there, so we'll move along. Thank you for all your input. Dropout prevention, no meetings. Finance committee. The only thing I have to report is that we did the budget hearing the other night, and as of this afternoon, we've had 18 views on the Aptogee app, and our former finance chair, Eric German, he did text me after the meeting to say nice job. So I always appreciate when Eric says we did a good job. That makes me happy because he has very high standards. So that's on the record. Policy committee, no meeting.
No meeting, but there is a second reading that's required for policy IKF.
Okay, so we should do that one.
Yes.
So a motion to approve. Well, Tony, you're the chair, so you do that one.
Yeah. So, yes, I would move that we approve the second reading of the policy.
I'll second that.
Excellent. Any questions or comments?
Okay. Then Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock,
Yay.
Nancy Fortier Brown,
Yay.
Linda Caputo,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy,
Yay.
John Umlin,
Yay.
Tony Beat.
Yay.
Great. It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. General information.
General information as listed. We've hired an Ed Tech 2 for our special ed department at the middle school.
And nominations as written.
Yeah, actually, I would like the board to officially approve. These are the individuals that we have hired since your last meeting. We have Jana Prout, will be a grade 1 teacher at the Pittston Randolph Consolidated School. We have Chris Boynton, who lives in Gardner and will be a special ed teacher at the middle school. Carol Carlson, who will be our new elementary art teacher, and she will be at the Pittston Randolph and Riverview Community School. We have Jordan Hersom, who will be the health teacher at the high school. We have Casey Earlbach, who will be our new English teacher at the high school. And then we have Karen Collin. Karen Collin will be the new literacy coach. Now, Karen, you will see on your agenda that I've listed a salary here. I just want to be really clear. Karen's position does not fall under the teacher's contract. Coaches do not fall under the contract. However, we do use the salary scale for the teacher's contract as a basis for which to pay them. And they work 20 days beyond the teacher work year. So they are scheduled to work for 201 days per year. So those are my nominations.
All right then. May I have a motion to approve these nominations?
I make a
I move
motion.
to approve. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So we'll do Jim has a motion and Veronica second.
Okay.
We're getting better at this, guys. Pat, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock,
Yay.
Nancy Fortier Brown,
Yay.
Linda Caputo,
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy,
Yay.
John Umlin,
Yay.
Tony Veet.
Yay.
Great. That's unanimous, Becky.
Great, thank you. Nomination, administrator contracts. For 2-year contracts, we have Linda Surgeon, Director of Student Nutrition, and Katie Gould, Principal at Helen Thompson School. And then,
So
Mhm.
I would like to do these separately if you don't mind, if that's okay with the board. They should have been on the agenda in June. This was our oversight that we neglected to add them to the agenda. So I apologize for that. So I'm wondering if we could approve them first,
Sure.
and then we can look at the stipends as a second motion.
That's fine. Do any board members have an issue with that?
Oh no.
Okay, so can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to accept those nominations.
Second.
I'll second, yep.
Happy, really good. All right then. Pat, would you call the roll?
Okay, so that was Veronica and Matthew Lillybridge.
Mhm.
Okay, so nominations. Let's see. Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock,
Yay.
Nancy Fortier Brown,
Yay.
Linda Caputo,
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy,
Yay.
John Umlin,
Yay.
Tony Veet.
Yay.
Great, that's unanimous.
Great, thank you. And then next, administrator stipends. These are the stipends that allow for us to do all the special things that we need done in the absence of the superintendent. And then also just, we need these additional helps from our administrators.
Yes, these are positions that are required to be filled. We must have a homeless liaison. We must have an ELL liaison. And Terry McGuire, in addition to being the affirmative action officer, she's also Title IX officer as well. And all of these individuals currently hold these positions, and you approved them last year as is.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Alyssa,
Second.
second by Veronica. Any questions or comments? I have a question that maybe you can answer. How many homeless students do you have?
I don't know the number. I mean, it varies at any one moment. There are years where we have higher numbers than others, but we certainly do have a handful or two. Maybe Andrea has a better sense than I do, because she is more involved in sharing the billing with other school districts and with the transportation cost that is associated with it.
Becky, I'm sorry, you cut out on your question. What was your question?
I was just curious, how many homeless students do we have?
As Pat says, it varies. I would say less than 20.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, this is Matt. I thought when they did the brief, the administrators did the brief. I thought it was somewhere between like 10 and 12 this year or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
It varies from year to year, month to month.
I just don't remember, Matt. You might be absolutely right. I'm just not remembering. So
I think that's ballpark, Becky, frankly. I do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Seems good. All right then. May I have a motion and a second?
We already have a motion and a second.
Yes, we do. Can we call the roll?
Sure. Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock,
Yay.
Nancy Fortier Brown,
Yay.
Linda Caputo,
Yay.
Matthew Lillibridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy,
Yay.
John Umlin,
Yay.
Tony Veet,
Yay.
and that's unanimous, Becky.
Great. Thank you. An update on the return to school roadmap committee work.
Sure. I just thought we would maybe like to take a few minutes to talk about the work. Each of you were involved in various committees. And I thought that this would be an opportunity for you to kind of share how things are going with your committee. And then I have an update. I actually received some information today that I want to share with the steering committee next week that provides some clarity. So if you don't mind, I'll start with that and then kind of turn it over to all of you to be able to share what's going on. I've told you in the past that the Department of Education was going to be making some determination on whether schools will be able to reopen, and that date was going to be August 7th when we were going to receive that information. I've received some clarification on that and what that's going to look like. To my knowledge, the August 7th date has not changed. However, what the department is going to be doing is they're not going to tell school districts whether they can open or not. That will be a local decision. Instead, what they're going to be doing is that regionally, they're going to be putting forth risk factors. They're going to be putting out these cards, I guess. There's going to be a red, a green, and a yellow. And they're going to be looking at metrics based on the 14-day list of COVID identified patients with COVID, the how many hospital visits in the last 14 days, the capacity of hospitals in the last 14 days, and regionally, they're going to be telling school districts whether based upon the risk, based upon the data, based upon the science, whether you fall under a red, a green, or a yellow card. And depending where you fall, it will help us determine what we need to be able to do to open. So it is very similar to a plan that they have in Georgia. I just received a copy of that plan today. I sent it to all of the chairs of each of the committees, and I'm asking them to send that to their committee members. So for all of you, you will see a copy of that. If not within the next couple days, definitely by the beginning of the next week. So that's really how the state is going to approach this. They will not be telling us whether we can open or not, but they'll be setting forth the guidelines depending on what the circumstances will be within each region. So I think that that's helpful. And when you go through, when you look at the Georgia plan, I think they followed a very similar model. So I'm expecting our model, our approach, to be in line with that one, and it provides a lot of clarity, I think.
That was the plan they decided on this morning in the DOE meeting. I think also that Massachusetts is following that same sort of following the Georgia model as well. But it just seems like the most gives some freedom to the variety of conditions that we have based on where we are for the heavily populated areas, and then also the rural areas. It just seems like the best way to start. And if you then find that you've got a problem, you back up and go to the yellow zone, and then go to an integrated sort of system. So it seems like a good idea. The best we've got so far.
So I wonder, Becky and Pat, in those things that we, you talk about at home and just thinking out loud, right, as all these things come out every day and we don't know, does that offer the same sort of flexibility for families, because some may choose, even if we decided to open, to not send, right? Or vice versa, or some other combination. So I assume did you see that in there as well?
I think that families are going to have the opportunities to do what they need to do. And if you feel as though learning from home is the best way, I think that you're going to be able, I don't think nobody wants to force families to feel uncomfortable.
Right. There you go. Right. There you go. Yeah. That's good.
But there are a lot of conversations that are happening regarding that, Alyssa. We need to have a plan in place for remote learning should families not feel comfortable in sending their children back into the school building. Absolutely. But what does that mean for school districts in terms of funding, right? The Department of Education, they calculate our EPS based on our October 1 enrollment. And if we have families who are deciding not to send their children to school, they're deciding maybe to homeschool versus accessing our remote learning, it could have long-term impact on schools and school funding down the road. So we just want to make sure that we provide as many opportunities for families as possible so that they do return to school in some capacity and choose not to homeschool instead.
Makes sense. Thank you for that. Yeah.
That our remote learning is so well put together.
Yes, that's what I would say.
And that's what families will because you want to have that relationship with the teacher, and you want to have that relationship with your district as opposed to doing some homeschooling or online schooling.
This is Matt. I think before the decision is made, I think we'd really need to do a significant push to canvass every student and their families to find out exactly what their plan is and how they feel, because obviously there's a lot of tentacles to this one, and we really need to make sure we get it right when we decide.
Agreed. There's a survey. There are several surveys that have been put out by the Department of Education. Apparently, there are also two two surveys that were sent out by the Ed Committee, and we're encouraging folks to do the one that's done by the BOE because that's closest to what our objective is, which is to educate every student. So I do think, Matt, that there's an opportunity to fill out surveys, and they've had tens of thousands of responses already. So I think that that's something that we need to become part of. Yes, Pat.
But we will also have to gather additional information from our parents. From the survey that Angela oversaw a while back, we had, I think she said 558 responses, and about 20% of those responding indicated that they would not be comfortable in sending their children back to school. So we're going to have to do something a little more thorough with that. The other thing that we are going to need to do, and the steering committee discussed this last Monday, and this will address John's question about teachers from red zones. As a district, we will need to find out from our staff how many have a medical condition that will warrant some type of accommodation for the start of the school. So I'm going to be working with the representatives from the teachers and with Chad Kempton. The 5 of us are going to come together and kind of create a survey to try to get that information from the staff, because we need to know who is going to be available in our buildings, and if they're not going to be in their buildings, what other duties or responsibilities can they be eligible for if they have a medical condition that prevents them, from being in the school building. So we do need to get a lot more information, and we need to collect that information soon in order to facilitate our planning.
Becky,
Yeah, Pat, that's kind of what I was getting at, Pat, with, as time gets closer for school start, I mean, that 20% might go down to 10. I mean, it might jump up to 30. Who knows?
Right.
Becky, I have a question.
Sure.
Has the state talked about how it's going to calculate subsidy for those school districts who are only doing remote learning? How are they going to take attendance? And if they're unable to take attendance for those districts, I would think that they would have to have an alternative funding mechanism for the ED 279 next year for all of us. I think attendance is going to be problematic.
I agree with you, and I have not heard anything like that. So, no, I haven't. In fact, the topic today was a lot about districts that, of course, haven't spent their CARES money. So the government thinks if we haven't spent the money, then we didn't need the money. It's still very much, there's just so many unknowns. There's just a lot of unknowns still, but I can ask that question.
Yes.
About attendance. That's a very good question. How do we validate our existence?
And the other question that I have about transportation is anybody discussing what happens if our bus drivers who are unable to come back to work? Several of our bus drivers indicated last spring that they were unable to come back to work for students. So if we're unable to transport students and find bus drivers, are we discussing what that would look like?
Not yet, but we need to be. You're absolutely right about that.
I have a quick question, Becky.
Sure.
When once we collect the data about parents that are uncomfortable with their children returning to school, will that be the parents' responsibility to do the homeschooling, or are we going to still have an online option for those parents? Like legally, what is that going to look like, or do we not know?
In conversation, it talks like we will have the online option like we did this spring. So that's what they're not talking about parents doing the teaching. They're talking about doing what we were doing, Google Classroom, and that we're still providing the academics for our students.
So will there be a teacher, I would hope, assigned to doing all of that, or a classroom teacher is going to have to do both?
That's what the instructional committee is looking at right now. They're looking at all of the options that are available. So we just need to give them a little more time to do that work. We should have an answer to your question, hopefully in the next, 2 or 3 weeks. And Linda is on that committee. I'm not sure if Linda, you can contribute to this conversation. There you go.
I'm on the curriculum. We've not talked about that topic in my meeting yet.
Okay, this is the instruction committee, not the curriculum committee. So
Okay.
this is the committee with Angela, with Alicia, with Terry, with some parents and community members to talk about the plan that we're going to have for coming back to school.
I'm sorry, I just can't. I don't have anything to say. I don't
Okay.
remember specifically talking about that.
Okay. They are going to have to come up with a plan for remote instruction. They may not have yet had an opportunity to start discussing how that remote instruction will be delivered.
The thing that I remember is there was some discussion about platforms and, could we all agree on what to do so parents didn't have to learn multiple ones? So that was a topic of discussion. But I don't remember us talking about teachers and how that would come about.
And you may not be there yet.
Platform was what sticks in my mind.
Okay. There's a lot of pieces to this, like Matt says, there's a lot of tendrils, and this is so complicated. It's a very detailed problem or thing we need to manage.
I had hopefully a quick enough question. This is Tony. Are there any protocols or recommendations associated with that red, yellow, green process? Like something, steps we should take in that or could take? Or is that just like, hey, warning, this is a red zone, ICUs are full and, 7-day moving average is high, make your own decision off of that? Or is any recommendations kind of, a decision tree associated with each of those red, yellow, green statuses?
It's my understanding that the Department of Education will be working with the state, working with MEMA, working with the CDC, and they will be using the scientific data to make an assessment and a determination based on region as to whether a particular region will be flagged as red, flagged as yellow, or flagged as green. Does that answer your question?
Well, and then it's sort of up to us to use that information however we see fit. Is that the takeaway?
It's up to us to then open the school district under the recommendations put forth under each of those bands. Okay, so when you receive the document from Georgia, I think it will make it clearer that you will be able to see that if you're red, then it's remote learning, and these are the guidelines that you need to meet. Right. If you're yellow, then maybe it's a hybrid model. Maybe you bring everyone in, but if you bring everyone in, these are the safeguards. Yep. Or if it's green, you're bringing everyone in, and again, these are the safeguards that you need to have in place.
Yep.
And those colors can change quickly.
Yes.
Right. So we could open under yellow, and then by Thanksgiving, we're red. And then after Christmas, we're yellow again. It's just, we'll have to depend on the circumstances in our communities.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. I did have one other question just about CATC. Is that coming up? If we don't do that, will we lose our place? I just wanted to see where we would fit in that.
I have no information on CATC. I'm not sure what they're doing. I haven't received an update. Augusta is presently trying to determine what next year will look like for them. I assume that they're incorporating COTC in, and I would certainly hope that they are including the area building principals and getting their input, but I don't know for certain.
Okay, thank you.
I can follow up if you would like. I will follow up with Jim Anastasio in Augusta and see what's going on.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, other news from your steering committees, board members?
Hey, this is Matt. I'll talk a little bit about the resource committee. I think Tony, you're on that as well, right?
Yeah, thanks. Go ahead.
Were you able to attend today?
I did. It was a briefer meeting.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you can expound on things that I don't talk about, but I'm going to be very brief. And I was unable to attend today just because the meeting was from 2 to 4 and I had to work. I couldn't break free, but you know, with you on it, Tony, and me on it, I think we'll probably be able to tag team it pretty well. But the very first meeting we had about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, we broke it down into a couple subcommittees. But what we initially talked about, the gist of the whole thing was trying to come up with every single piece of PPE or any particular resource that any other committee might need from us. For example, cleaning equipment, busing, you know, the transportation committee, things for the bus, rags, face shields, masks, what masks might look like, whether they're cloth, whether they're, you know, the heavy duty ones, eye protection, gowns, you name it. We probably named 24 things that we might need across all of the committees, and we came back together, and I'm not sure, was that any of that expounded on today, Tony?
Well, actually, the piece I would add to that is something that I think, so Karen Moody's the chair, and she'll bring it back to the steering committee, that it's really hard to identify what we need if we don't know what our plan is. And what we ran into, we need the input from the other committees on what they will need sort of on the ground. So we're going to kind of manage the what the sort of requests are from the other committees to figure out the costs and availability for things in a nutshell. One of the issues, you know, again with masks is, do we have 5 masks per kid? Do we wash them? What do we, you know? So go ahead, Pat. You got to.
So not to interrupt, but I'm a little concerned about the road that you guys are going down. Only because, as a reminder, the Department of Education in the state, they have spent $11 million on PPEs that they're going to be distributing to school districts. So as a school district, we already purchased face masks for all of our teachers. I'm sorry, face shields for all of our employees, and face masks that were reusable, enough for middle school students up and all staff, just to get us started. But the Department of Education in the state is going to be providing us with a lot of PPEs free of charge. So I just caution you with how much time you spend determining those PPEs, because we're probably not going to have to buy them for ourselves, at least initially.
So, and that was, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, Pat. And that'll be good to know. One of the things we realized is that, again, depending on what our plan to return is going to really drive what resources we would be looking at. And so one of the things we did come up with today, and Matt and everybody, this will be good to know, we decided that each member of the resource committee would connect with would sort of monitor and connect with the chair of every other committee to just see how the resource request lists are coming along, so that we can track that and be ready to, you know, kind of request those items, or make sure that we have access to those items, so that we're not doing, yes, all this legwork, as you're saying, Pat, to track down every mask and glove. This is more about seeing what are the needs from the other committees, and then how can we make sure that those needs are going to be met. So I think we defined that boundary a little bit today. The other thing, actually a couple things I'm thinking of. Andrea had a good point about what do we do if we're back in school, but then we need a lot of subs, and that's going to be something where funds need to go, and how sustainable is that? So those pieces to think about. The other piece, actually, Andrea, would you want to touch on that for a second, or?
We were just discussing what our resources were, and specifically our personnel resources. And I said, based on the number of staff members who are uncomfortable returning back to the classroom, if that's what the other committees decide, that a huge part of our resources might be substitutes. And if we pay for the substitutes out of the CARES Act, how it's going to cost us 20% more than if we paid for the subs out of the district. So there's a huge cost factor there that I don't know that we've accounted for. But until we know what the number of personnel who are uncomfortable in returning and what the plans are by the other committee, it's impossible to estimate what we would need for substitutes. So is that what you wanted, Tony?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Meaning, so we identified a fair amount today that obviously we all need more information. The resource committee needs more information. One of the things, in that is, it depends if we're in the green zone and we all return, that's going to mean one thing, and one set of responses from teachers who are comfortable or not, or parents and students that are comfortable about returning or not. If we're virtual, remote, that's another thing. Where it really gets sticky, and I started to go down this rabbit hole and nobody would have it, is the hybrid model. Is it every other day? Is it morning and afternoon? Is it elementary in and high school out? There's so many variations there that, again, we need that information to be able to determine what resources are needed and then how they're going to be allocated. So we're really starting to see where we need to set boundaries for the resource committee, and then again, that need for information in order to drive that. Because if we come up with 500 different scenarios, that's a lot of effort, as you're alluding to, Pat, that we need to target our energies a little more thoughtfully. Anyway, so that's probably the big synopsis from that.
And I would also remind your committee, Tony, during the kickoff meeting, I mentioned that it may make sense for some committees to do more work up front, and other committees to sit back and wait for a little bit, because decisions were going to have to be made before you were able to finish your work. And so your committee is exactly the committee I had in mind, that you're not going to be able to determine all the resources until others begin telling you what it is that they're going to need.
Good eye. Yes, we figured that out today. So 2 meetings later.
Well done. Time well spent. Any other board members have anything to report out?
Sure, I'll just share. We had our second communications meeting. Unfortunately, like Matt mentioned, the first one I couldn't attend because of work, but this one was pretty meaty. So we had made assignments to folks to liaison to the other committees and just gain perspective. We talked a lot about the survey feedback, and we reviewed the video I think that Pat had shared. We're on a path by next week to write a script and do some video, and we're going to have a video by the 3rd week of July is our goal. And then we're working on a communication plan so that if we do all decide to do surveys or do information, that we could get an approved sort of path of where it should go and how we should share it. So we had almost a 2-hour meeting, but it was very productive this week. So
nice. Thank you. Others?
I think Jim wanted to say
I can talk a
something.
minute.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm working from my car. I've just left the high school, and we had our second meeting at the high school to talk about maintenance and facilities. It's going to be a challenging committee, trying to keep everybody going in the right direction and keeping them separate. But I think we're working on it. I'll know more. We're going to have another meeting. Our third meeting will be next Tuesday at the middle school, and then we're going to hit every other elementary school before we're done, which should be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we're making progress. It's daunting. So that's all.
There's a lot of information to process.
Oh yeah. And we're talking about how to bring which doors to bring the students in that are driving, which door to bring the students in that are being delivered by their parents, and which door to bring the students in that are being brought in by the buses. Talking about those things and how to get them. It's not the lunch isn't our problem, the actual meal, but it is our problem to figure out how to get them from the door to the meal and back to their homeroom, so to speak, and then see how we transition into the rest of the day. So That's it.
Thank you, Jim.
I'd like to go next if it's okay, because it seems like I'm on the in-school committee and it seems like there's a lot of overlap, because we talked about a lot of procedures, like when they come to school off the bus, how do they come in, and what needs to be done before they can get on the bus, and what if they're driven to school by a parent, and procedures for just about everything. It's like we're going to have these little soldiers marching and we're doing this, so now we do this. Let's see what procedure. We talked about cleaning the facilities. When students, say in middle school or high school, the desks need to be cleaned after every period and a new group comes in. How is that going to happen? Can students do it? Well, maybe, because the chemical use are okay for students to use. So who's going to do that? We talked about hand washing. What's the procedure and how is that going to work for the constant hand washing? We need procedures if we suspect a child is sick. We just talked about having procedures for every conceivable thing that could happen. And we haven't determined the procedures. We're just sort of talking about what do we need to consider now that we haven't considered in the past, such as coming indoors and going outdoors, and how do they get to lunch, and do they always sit with the same people, and do they have to, the teacher's nightmare, eat in their classrooms, and just those kind of procedural things.
So I have heard from some of the chairs that there are committees who are discussing items that really fall outside of their purview. And I think that that's natural. We have so many questions and we don't know how to proceed. And people just want to discuss all of these possible options. I would encourage all of us to try to prevent particular groups from going down these rabbit holes whenever that occurs. You know, when we're talking about the washing of the desks, for example, I would think that that would fall under the purview of the Facility Safety Committee, that they may talk about those types of procedures. Where your group, Linda, let's really talk about what instruction is going to look like. How are we going to deal with social and emotional learning? What is the technology that we need so that we can provide both the in-class instruction and the remote instruction? And that's kind of why we then have the steering committee. And so that the chairs come together as part of the steering committee with other people to be able to talk about some of the decisions that we make as a way of preventing that overlap. And I think naturally there is going to be some overlap. But I think, or I hope, as time goes along here, each committee will kind of find their way and be able to focus on their task without wanting to discuss all of the possible issues that need to be addressed.
So I, as a former teacher, this is something that's burning in my head. So if you look at math, which is always my focus, it's very stair step. You can't do this unless you know this. And so one of my questions is, we're missing a huge chunk of curriculum. Our teachers, say in 4th grade, going to start with that curriculum that wasn't covered last year. Who's going to handle those decisions? I mean, where does that thinking come in?
I would see that as being a conversation for your committee.
Okay.
Could I say something?
Sure.
Oh,
This is
yes.
Jim, could I say something?
Oh,
Yep.
yes, of course.
We did discuss sterilizing the desks. Gabe has got it down pretty well. He has a sterilant that we can use. It takes about an extra few seconds it takes a little longer to sterilize, about 5 minutes versus 2, but it is eco-friendly. It's green. Anybody can use it without wearing gloves or any kind of mask. So the thought he was saying was, the thought is that at the end of each class, before the kids are excused, they will clean up their desk, make one washing, then come back again, dry the desk off, and then do a sanitizing coating. Just spray it on and leave it, let it air dry, and that will kill the germs for the next class to come into. It could be done maybe by the teacher, but probably by the students themselves. I think that will work out really well. I think they'll be vested in the process, and a lot of these kids want to get back to school, and I think they're willing to do an awful lot to get back to school. They've found out how bad it can be without school. So that's all. Sorry.
Becky, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. There we go. I muted myself because my bird was tweeting. I think that's great, Jim. And I think our kids can do more than we think they can do. I was speaking with a constituent today who was reminding me that children sit in car seats and they do all kinds of things that we think that they won't want to do. I think the grown-ups have to get into the room and say, this is going to be just great. Let's do it. Let's wear our masks. Let's wipe our desks. Let's wash our hands.
Becky, can I say something real quick? I'm
Sure.
in my car and I'm about to lose my battery on my phone, so I'm just going to have to say goodnight for now.
Well, say good night for now and drive safely. For goodness sakes, thank you for being here.
Well, I'm sorry I can't stay longer, but I won't be on my phone much longer until I get home, and anyways, thank you very much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Jim. Okay, then. What else we got? Anybody else?
I can speak very briefly on the food service. They've been meeting during the day, July boat business. It's hard for me to fully attend, but I do know that they broke down into 3 different little committees, and then to just see how, because each elementary is going to look different than middle school, which is going to look different from high school. And so I know that they are discussing that and how to, but I think for the most part, I think it's something that they've been working on. So they've got some information to call back on from how they handled it all spring. And I can't speak any more of that just because I really haven't been there.
Thank you, Nancy. Has there been any conversation in any of your groups about groups of 10 or less? So if you're in a classroom of 20 and you break into a group of 10 or 8, that is the group that you stay with all the time for the purposes of contact tracing? Has there been any conversation around that? That would be the group you eat lunch with, that would be the group that you play with on the playground, that would be, and it's not ideal, but I do know that for athletics, the MPA is recommending that when the football team breaks out into a group of 10, that's the same, you work with the same 10 all the time. because if there's some sort of change or outbreak, that's how the contact tracing can be done for greater safety. No conversation about that?
It will come up.
Okay.
It just hasn't yet. I think naturally it may come up out of instruction because
Yeah.
you're talking about the delivery of instruction for the most part, you know,
Right.
especially elementary and possibly middle school, that the teachers are doing the moving, not the students. It is
Correct.
far more complicated at the high school. So I'm not sure if that's even a possibility at you know, grades 9 through 12.
Right. Okay. Just wondered. Anyone else? Any other committees that need to report out?
Hey, for the athletics committee, subcommittee, we had one meeting thus far. And we got another one on Monday or Tuesday of next week. And Tony, correct me if I'm wrong on anything, but it was basically just Nate laying things out. He sent another email, I think yesterday or today, about what we're going to talk about next week. Still following the MPA's guidelines with regards to conditioning training only. Pat, he said that you had allowed them to use the weight rooms or the gyms, and the way that it was broken up. We don't have any subcommittees yet or anything. It was just kind of a general meeting, and maybe we'll get into the weeds a little bit more. And I'm wondering if he's going to bring up, I guess the main principals committee was talking to Vermont with regards to possibly pushing back fall sports, but it could have just been sports talk radio type of thing. And he didn't say anything in his email, but someone might bring it up in our meeting this upcoming next week.
I think that could be coming. It's not here yet, but I do know that conversation it's happening at the collegiate level. The Ivy League yesterday canceled their fall sports, including football. I have heard that SMCC has canceled their fall sports. And I do think it's part of a conversation that will be happening.
We actually touched on athletics a little, and Nate happened to walk in the room when we had Chad on with us, and he was referencing the that software that we had allowed him to purchase, you know, for the building use, but he was going to use it for athletics, and he hasn't quite got it yet. But one of the parents in our group was asking, you know, how do you even find out? And Nate was very good about offering, you know, you just contact me or find someone. So we just talked about that as a group. I think I shared it out on our Pittston page. Just, you know, you should know who you need to call. And Nate was good about saying, you know, people need to just reach out to who they think they should call. And so it was good for the committee to hear, to not try to take on everything. Like you had just mentioned, let's keep the focus on what we need to. And people are available that you should find. So.
Great. That's good
Yeah.
to know. That's good to know.
I'm going to just speak to the steering committee. I have to say that was extremely overwhelming, the information that we received this week. I took notes because I wanted to stay focused, but wow, I was emotionally and like drained overload, because just listening to each committee, the questions that were, you know, people had, and we just don't have the answers. And I feel like we're way ahead of most schools. Like my school, they just met for the first time today. I couldn't make the meeting, but it's in a process. I don't know if all schools are going to be as well prepared as we are, but the steering committee has a lot of stuff to weed through. And so all the work you guys and your committees are doing is amazing. It's just a lot of information. But it was good conversation and needed. But just kind of wanted to throw that out there.
We are doing a good job. It doesn't necessarily always feel like it, but we have really hit the ground sprinting. I'm grateful for that. Anyone else? All right, then we can, if everybody's satisfied that they've had their opportunity, and Pat, if you're satisfied, we can move along. Approval of the updated teacher evaluation and professional growth program.
Yes, you received a copy of that in your board packet. For those of you who are relatively new to the board, gosh, I'm going to say 7 years ago now, we participated in what was called a TIF grant. We received lots of federal money to help us develop our teacher evaluation plan and our administrator evaluation plan. And last year, or the end of the previous year, the legislature made some modifications to what had to be included in that teacher evaluation plan, specifically student learning objectives or using student assessments. So we were required as a district, as were all school districts around the state, to go back and make modifications to our teacher evaluation system. We had to pull together a steering committee that had been in place when we first developed it. We pulled them back, we were doing the work, and that's when COVID hit. So we were ready to wrap it up. It ended up taking the back burner. So over the last few weeks, I've been working with a couple teachers, with administrators, and we've been trying to get this back on board. But what you're looking at is the final proposal that we have to make modifications to our overall plan. It includes the elimination of student learning objectives. We've increased the percentage that we've applied to classroom observations from 60% to 70%. And we've added or kind of we separated our standards, our 4.1, 4.2 standards, which focus on professional goals. And we pulled out standards 5.1 and 5.2, which is really around communication with parents, family, and then professionalism. And those are really the big changes. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any questions. We're pleased to put this forth. It was a lot of work making these changes. It took a lot of time, and as a matter of fact, today I will let you know in the handbook on page 7, there were a couple items that I had left off from the chart. So I have added it. It doesn't substantially change any of the document that you've seen. It just takes, it just adds some clarification for staff members. So I hope that that's okay that I made that change already, but it's just clarification purposes.
I can't believe it's been 7 years since we started the TIF grant.
It could be 8, Becky. It's been a while.
Oh my gosh, that burden feels so fresh.
I know.
It feels so fresh. Wow. Well, good job. And there was such good work came out of that, even though it was really a burdensome process. We really, it enabled us to do some very good things.
It did.
Yeah. Excellent. So we need to vote on this.
Yes.
So I would love a motion, please.
Motion to approve the teacher evaluation professional growth program.
Second. And a second. Oh, yes. Oh, well. Next time, Tony. Motion and a second. Pat, would you please read the roll?
Yes. Becky Fless.
Yay.
Veronica Babcock.
Yay.
Nancy Fortier Brown.
Yay.
Linda Caputo.
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge.
Yay.
Jim Lothridge. He left, right? Matthew Marshall.
Yay.
Patrick Saucier.
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy.
Yay.
John Umland.
Yay.
Tony Veet.
Yay.
That's unanimous.
Great. Thank you so much. Next, let's see, the board chair report. I really don't have anything. I've sort of been filling in as we go with my work with the state, the DOE committee, that steering committee. I have no more to offer. We're meeting every other Thursday, so we'll meet again in a week from today.
So I just have 3 items. One, I wanted to update the board on the facility use and rental. A couple weeks ago, I sent out a letter to parents in the community, and I sent you all a copy. So hopefully that provides some clarity. We were getting a lot of questions about outside organizations being able to access our fields, access our indoor facilities. So I worked with the administration to do a better job of putting up signage to make sure that everyone understood that the facilities were closed. Andrea helped me work with the insurance company. There is certainly liability if we were not able to guarantee that people were going to adhere to social distancing requirements. So it was decided to keep the facilities closed. We have now allowed for athletes to use the facilities to a limited degree for conditioning purposes, but that's it. So I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of that. You may have heard some scuttlebutt around the community, but hopefully the letter I sent out providing the clarification addressed any of those concerns and took care of any misunderstanding. The next one, it's actually superintendent mentorship. Wanted to let you know that I have agreed to mentor an individual for this next school year for her superintendency. Her name is Donna Seepy. She is actually the wife of Josh Farr, our adult ed director. Donna works at the University of Maine in Augusta. She currently has her doctorate, but has decided that she wants to become a certified superintendent. So you may see her around. She's going to help us in various ways throughout the district. One, her background is extensive in Title IX. And so I'm about ready to inform you of some significant changes in Title IX, and she's going to work with us to help provide training for our staff. So I'm looking forward to it. You may see her at some board meetings. Becky and Veronica, she may join a few of our agenda setting meetings, so she kind of gets a sense of all of that. I hope that you enjoy her participating. I think that she will offer a lot. She has a lot of experience. The last thing is Title IX. I wanted to let you know that there's been some extensive changes at the federal level with Title IX. The policy committee, I received today just some updated policies. I think that there are 5 of them. I haven't even had a chance to look at them yet, but we're going to need to meet this month to review them. And that way we're ready to bring them to the board in August. This new law goes into effect around, I think it's around August 17th or something like that. So the board needs to be able to approve these policy changes prior to that meeting. And we will probably request that the board waive its requirement to have 2 readings of the policy and just have 1 reading in this particular situation. Some of the changes I just thought I would highlight. Under sexual harassment, for example, the definition for sexual harassment used to be broader than it's going to be now. It used to say unwelcome conduct that was sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive to limit a student's ability to participate or benefit from an education. Now it says unwelcome conduct based on sex that is so severe, pervasive, and they've gotten rid of or, now it's and, objectively offensive, that it effectively denies a person's access to school programs. There's language in here that if there are issues that happen on the weekends, they may be bullying issues, but they're no longer going to be fall under Title IX, and they are no longer going to be harassment issues. So that's going to be a change that may be difficult for families. Let's see, we can no longer accept anonymous complaints. If there is not a name tagged, we cannot accept that complaint. And there are very rigid rules on how the investigation is going to happen. And we cannot, and this is another significant factor that will be difficult for families, I think, but we cannot remove a student or a staff member just based on a complaint. We'll only be able to remove them if there's an immediate threat that's required. So if you have a complaint of sexual harassment, it's been pretty typical that we would separate students. We're not allowed to do that at this point. until you can at least substantiate that the threat or that the complaint has any merit whatsoever. So there's a lot to it. I'm certainly not versed in it like I need to be, and I'm really looking forward to Donna working with Terry, who is our Title IX person, to really help train all of the administrators in these new requirements. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, and those policies will be brought forward in August.
Oh, boy,
Yeah, and that's all that I have.
that's enough. Those Title
That's
IX
enough.
changes are significant.
Yes, they are.
Andrea?
I just want to remind Pat and the board that we are going to need a meeting next week after the referendum to certify the election and the warrants to the towns. So typically Wednesday, I don't have everything I need from the towns. So it would need to be after Wednesday. Statute says that the meeting has to occur pretty quickly. So I'm
Okay.
thinking Thursday,
Thursday?
but I'm just putting that out there. Everything that
5:30
everything that I do depends on what I receive back from the towns, and they have 24 hours to turn the documentation around and get it back to me.
Well, Andrea, I'm working at our town hall, so I'll remind them to be expeditious.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
They typically are. Thank you.
Yes, good.
Andrea, thank you for that reminder. I had forgotten about that entirely. Can we tentatively agree that we would have a brief meeting next Thursday night? And we can have it as early as board members are available. It's what, a matter of 10 minutes, Andrea?
I would also need for board members to stop by central office, much like last time. I need them to sign the warrants for us to issue the payments or the assessments to the town so that they can begin paying us. So typically those two things happen together. So yes, we can make a document for you all, for board members to stop in and sign, and then we can just have a 15-minute meeting at most.
Okay. So 5:30 then, 5 o'clock, 4, what time works for everyone? Next Thursday.
Andrea, do you want us to stop in Wednesday or Thursday?
It's probably going to need to be Thursday. Like I said, I'm still waiting. Typically on Wednesday, I'm waiting for documentation. And I know that this year there are a lot of absentee ballots. So there'll be a lot of hand counting. So I'm sure the night before that it's going to be a very long evening for the town and the city clerk. So typically they come in late on Wednesday. So I'm hoping to have the information sooner rather than later. So Thursday, sorry, long answer, short question.
Matthew?
Yeah, my question is, and the absentee ballot thing, I played golf with two guys who already voted via absentee ballot this morning, but do we need to schedule a time like last time, or can we just come into the office and sign whenever Andrea says we're good to go?
I will let you know when the documents are available. I will send an email and then you can let me know when you want to pop by. We don't need a lot of notice. I just would hate for 10 of you to stop in at the same time or 5 of you to stop in at the same time. So I think we're still trying to social distance. So
I think we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
not create a lot of stir.
Quick question.
Sure.
I'm working Thursday at the fire department, and due to staffing levels, I can't guarantee that A, I'll be at the meeting, or B, I can stop by the superintendent's office. Can I set something up Friday for that, or?
I'm actually going to deliver them on Friday, which is the reason why we have to meet so quickly. I don't need everybody's signature. I do need a majority. So if you're able to be at the meeting on Thursday, it would make most sense for those board members to sign the warrant because they'll be the ones who actually take the vote. So Pat, your thoughts?
Yeah, so if that's the case, probably, Patrick, if you're not able to make it on Thursday, it doesn't make sense to come in Friday since she's going to be out delivering those warrants.
Okay. I just want to clarify that just so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other
I don't
questions?
have, no, I don't have any afternoon meetings Thursday. I was going to say if others are earlier, I'm okay with that for the meeting part.
Okay.
Can we do 5 o'clock? Let me just throw that out since we're
Sure.
going to be.
Yep.
5
Yeah.
o'clock works for everyone?
Yep.
Okay. Why don't we plan on next Thursday at 5 then? And if something changes, we will be in touch.
Okay. And that's the 16th, right?
Yes,
Okay, just being sure. All right,
great. Thank you all.
thank you. Do we have any public comments or emails?
No.
All right. then.
Hey, this is John. I have something real quick. It should be very brief. And hopefully, Pat, you've heard about it already, but there was an email that went out to all of the parents that were going to the Colorado trip this year that they need to purchase additional insurance because the insurance that they already purchased was not going to cover a trip cancellation related to COVID. And, I've already heard one of them being my wife. I'll completely transparent with that part of it. But I've heard from a couple other people that are pretty upset with this, that, they feel pretty scammed that all of a sudden everybody's being pressured to purchase additional insurance because the insurance they've already purchased doesn't cover COVID. Like, none of us knew that COVID was going to happen when we signed up for the Colorado trip. And, this just seems like an organization that's large enough that there's got to be more than one school, one district, one state using it. Like, we should be able to apply some pressure here that says what you're doing is just not right at this point, that these trips are
So-
expensive.
So John, I know nothing about this. I don't know what you're talking about. I have not received any communication. This is all news to me.
Okay.
I will have to work behind the scenes. I will tell you, I too was supposed to take vacation this past year and my insurance didn't cover it either. So I'm actually not surprised, but I would have to look into it.
Okay. Yeah, because I know, like, my wife and I had a trip as well, and our trip was reimbursed 100% due
Yeah.
to COVID,
You're right. Mine was not. So I think it depends on the level of insurance. I don't know. Plus mine was out of country, so it had to deal with another country. But so if you would just send that email to me,
100%. Yeah, definitely.
and I won't get to it this week.
No, certainly.
It'll be next week. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the trip's not until what, March or April, I think, April
Right.
vacation. So, yeah, I mean, obviously there's time, and hopefully, fingers crossed, something changes between now and then, and
Right.
everybody gets to enjoy the trip in the first place. But
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
All right. The executive session is canceled,
Correct.
Yep. Postponed. So we're all done. Gosh, it's nice to see all you guys. It'll be so nice to sit in the room together again.
It will.
Yes, it will.
Okay.
So enjoy the next few days until we're together again. Try and stay
And-
out of trouble. Wear your mask and wash your hands and don't touch your face.
And we'll see you next Thursday.
And we'll see you all next Thursday. Thank you all so much for sticking in and serving during this most unusual time. We're very lucky to have such a great board. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thank you,
everyone.
Pat.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.